Conversation with Vaccine Champions. So who are they? You just met Vinette, who's the Director of Caregiver Engagement at Houseworks. She oversees a team of caregiver engagement specialists who help Houseworks to foster an engaged and empowered workforce. In other words, she and the 3 people on her team are the bridge between the office and the caregivers who are in the field. And the beauty of these roles is that all 4 of the caregiver engagement specialists and Vinette as a leader of this team, they're all caregivers who are promoted into this role. So they have experience with the company, and they also have experience with caregiving as work. Prior to her work in Houseworks, Vinette was a customer service specialist. So she worked on customer relationships for banks, tourist boards. She was a paralegal. So she had a whole career in her home country of Jamaica, and now is a leader among caregivers in Boston. She's been interviewed on television, she's been given awards, and we're really pleased that she can be with us here today. At Houseworks, the Vaccine Champion program that I described earlier with the 6 steps, we actually implemented those 6 steps and more with Vinette and Marcia at Houseworks. So Marcia is a trusted caregiver. She's also a manager of caregiver engagement and a certified dementia practitioner. She works one-on-one with caregivers, helping them to be successful in their work with clients. She's also from Jamaica, where she had a 30-year career that included school administration, working in the courts, and serving in many departments in Jamaica's sugar industry. But she also moved to the US and transitioned into work as a caregiver, and is also a leader where she's received multiple awards and has also been interviewed by NBC about the virtual dementia training that she does. So we are very, very, very pleased to have you both with us today.
Thank you.
I am going to invite you to talk. After this slide, I'm going to invite you to talk about your work on the Vaccine Champion program. But these 5 categories are categories that came out of a conversation that I had with Vinette and Marcia about where the caregivers fit within the organizations. They'd reached out to more than 100 caregivers individually, and they described them as falling into one of these 5 categories. But the majority, even people who said they weren't interested or weren't sure, the majority were still seeking more information. And that's the key. When can you have an impact? The best time to have an impact is with someone who is still interested in learning more, even if they say they're not interested in being vaccinated. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to have a conversation. The 3 of us. Let's start with, how did the Vaccine Champion program begin? Like, once you were identified as champions, what did you need to learn in order to be effective in this role? What did that role mean at Houseworks? Why don't we start with you, Vinette?
Okay. What really brought on this role as a vaccine champion? It was in January of this year when they were rolling out the vaccines, and being, working closely with a facility, then, they were doing the vaccinations, and I decided that I was ready to be vaccinated. And then I had to communicate with other caregivers, because we were tasked with inviting other caregivers who not necessarily worked at that facility, but who worked with the company, if they were, had any interest in getting vaccinated. So the conversation started back then in January about, XY is having, some vaccinations. So, we will, are you interested? And you heard yes or no. And we were not at the initial stage. We were just talking about getting vaccinated from what we read, what little Marcia and I read. but there we were still at a place where we needed more information, more facts. And it was shortly after that our CEO got in touch with Charlene, and we had this rigorous meetings and conversations and eye openers, and we were armed with facts. But we were tasked with the responsibility, though, of reaching out and ensuring that our caregivers would be comfortable and start taking, deciding taking the vaccine. It was not an easy task. We had numerous conversations over time, over 3 months. And I can say, Marcia will continue after this, but I can say we have at least 240 caregivers. And at the moment, we have around 170 that have been fully vaccinated to date. I remember it wasn't easy getting that amount, but we have 170 of our caregivers vaccinated.
Okay, that's great. That's about 70% or 71%.
Yep.
So good job. And let's talk, Marcia, about the training. So Vinette mentioned that you guys needed to know more facts, but the reason that you were chosen as vaccine champions is because caregivers already trusted you.
Oh,
so
yes.
what was the gap that was being bridged? Like, what are the things that you needed to know to be effective with caregivers? What are the types of topics that you were able to address with them based on your vaccine champion training and the work you were empowered to do in that role?
The training helped us to, we had a lot of anti-vax caregivers who just did not believe in the vaccine. They were scared for different reasons. Vinette and I were the first two that was willing to take the vaccine. And we took the vaccine. When we took the vaccine, we were not 100% sensitized to all the information around the vaccine. But after we met with you and went through that training, we got the facts, how it works, after the vaccine is injecting in us, how it goes through our body, how it affects the body. It doesn't affect the DNA. And we could go back and relate this to the caregivers because they were scared that it would mess with one of the biggest scared was that it would mess with their DNAs. And we were able to convince them that it does not interfere with your DNA. We were, through training with you, we were able to convince, not all, but some, how the vaccine works. And we try to let them know that it's more good than harm taking the vaccine because there will be less death from the vaccine preventable disease. So we were a living example. They asked us how we felt after we took the vaccine, if we were sick, and we told them exactly what would happen. And we got them to start, all right, I'll try. Some will say, I need more information. And we come back to the session with you, we get more information. And as we get the information, we impart it to them. And they listen, they ask questions like, if I need to have another child, will it affect my fertility? And we tell them no. And they even ask where we got our information. And we told them that's a trusted source. We told them your name.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I think Marcia is frozen.
She's in the office, but I don't know what's happening with the internet from morning. she's
Well, the beauty of having both of you is that you can pick
trust.
up where she left off. So
Yes, they would ask where did we get those information, and you know, we told them the trusted source, and we mentioned your name, they Googled it, and you know, but a part of the reason why we had such a positive outcome from all of this was because of the trust that they had in us. We, as caregivers, first and foremost, they believed in us. And we communicated with caregivers. I'm answering that question too. By it's personal. Some when they came to do, because for the months of June to around April, we did PCR testing. So we were the ones who were at the sites, at our various sites. So caregivers came in. So we spoke to them over the phone. We spoke to some personally. You know, I'm based more times at a facility. So I'm there, I interact with them. But we actually talk to them, or we just take up the phone and we just have a conversation with them. So trust is very important. And
So
I think because of the trust, yeah.
thank you both. It sounds like you took a very intentional approach to communicating with the caregivers. You said that on COVID testing days, you would go in person and sit down and have conversations. And then on days when there wasn't testing, that you would pick up the phone and you went through the list of caregivers, calling them one by one by one. And you were empowered by your agency to do that work, to sit and to call and to talk and to engage. And that is what I'm going to ask you both to do now. So what we're going to do is have Vinette and Marcia role play a conversation between, like a typical conversation between vaccine champion and unvaccinated caregiver at Houseworks. But really, this is just a prototypical conversation that can happen anywhere. Vinette will play the role of the caregiver vaccine champion, and Marcia will play the role of the caregiver. The situation will be one where we have a caregiver who is not interested in being vaccinated, but still seems to be seeking information. So take it away, ring, ring.
Hi, Marcia. How are you? This is Vinette, Tyme, Director of Caregiver Engagement with Houseworks. How are you doing?
Oh, no.
You're on mute, Marcia. On mute.
Good.
Yeah. I'm Vinette from Houseworks, Director of Caregiver Engagement. How are you doing, Marcia?
I'm going fine. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Marcia, you know what I'm calling you about, don't you?
Yes, Vinette. But we have gone through this already so many times.
Okay, Marcia, what is it that you're not comfortable? What is it that you need to know more before taking this vaccine?
Well, Vinette, I've been hearing so many stories about this vaccine. I'm hearing that it messes with your DNA. It's for its depopulation. I looked there. I go on the social media and I see where they say it affect people, and I'm confused. I don't know if I should take it.
And I understand, I really do understand, and especially social media. But I am here, and whatever I say, you can trust what I say. You think that it messes with your DNA. You've heard that it does that.
Yes, so many
But
people
I'm here
say
to tell
that.
you, does not. It does not. It goes nowhere. The vaccine goes nowhere near your DNA. You're safe. What it does, it sends a message. So your body will get that message. If whenever time, you decide to take that vaccine, our body, it's a signal, it's a message. So what happened is that whatever strange thing coming into your body, because you have gotten the vaccine, it picks up immediately that, hey, something is going on. There's a new kid on the block and I don't like it. So it fights it. And in order for, nothing to happen to you, you have to have that protection. And I know you think that, hey, what's going inside? But Marcia, I can assure you, it's safe. It sends a message so that you look very doubtful.
But Vinette, I've never heard this on the news. Where did you get all this information?
It's on the news. But you know what, Marcia? We choose not to hear or not to listen what the news is saying.
No, all I hear on the news is that we are to take this vaccine. I've never heard what you're telling me right now.
And it can be very true. You might not have heard, but I can tell you, I have been doing several sessions with someone who is quite knowledgeable. I read, I Google, and I have conversations with other people. But the thing is, I hear all what you're hearing too. I hear it messes with your DNA. I hear it, your childbearing days, whatever, everything, your fertility. I hear that too. I get messages on social media. But I am not one who will say yes. I like to do my own investigations.
Okay, you're saying all this to me. Have you taken the vaccine?
I have. Actually, I did all the way back in January when it was fresh. I decided that I was going to take it. And you know why I decided? I went through that first phase a year ago, and I was there with you. I knew how we all felt. We were nervous. And I took the decision to take this vaccine because I wanted to protect myself, my family, and my friends.
So how did you feel after you take this vaccine?
Okay, the first dose that I got, I was very tired. I got it the Friday afternoon, and I was very tired on the Saturday. I, was in bed, tired. It just felt like laying down. And I took 2 Tylenols, and then I, felt better later that evening. I was okay the Sunday, and the Monday I was back at work. It's nothing that I didn't feel sick. I was not, people said they, you heard about people throwing up. None of that happens. You felt a little lousy, a little loss of appetite, which can be good for me, but I was okay.
But I've taken vaccine before, and I've never felt that way. What causes this vaccine to give you that reaction?
Remember, all vaccines, you have a reaction. They all have side effects. As kids, when we take them to the doctor to get their vaccines, don't they spike a fever? And
Yes.
what do we
Sister.
do? We just, give them some children, Tylenol or something.
But you know, one of my concerns,
Mm-hmm.
the short time that this vaccine is being developed.
Okay. This has been around since SARS. It has been around in early 2000, SARS, and they have been working. They have coronavirus, different strains. And this happens to be one that we're experiencing. But they have been working on it. Government has never in the history spent so many money developing research, investing human resources, financial resources, or educational wise. They have put in a lot of money has been spent to develop a vaccine, but it's not overnight. This has been happening for some time, from 2002, 2004. They have been working on developing a vaccine.
But I heard it's for depopulation, to kill Black people. And I'm Black, so I'm scared.
Are only Black people the only ones taking it? When I took my vaccine, I did not only see my type. People were taking it. And why do we think they would want to do that? I don't. And yes, you may have concerns because we know the history and we do know it, but things have changed.
So are you saying if I take this vaccine, I will not get the virus?
No, there's not 100% safe that you're not going to get it. You may end up getting the virus, but if you get the vaccine and you get the virus, you will be safe. You will not end up on a ventilator. You will not get as sick as someone who has not taken the vaccine.
So is this something I'll have to take every year, like the flu shot? If I decide to take the vaccine, is it something I have to take every year?
I cannot say with conviction that yes, you can take it you must take it every year. That has not yet been defined. But like the flu shot, I take the flu shot every year, right? And I happen to get in the cold, in the heat, I happen to get a little, runny nose and feeling a bit fluid. But it takes me like 2 days and I'm back to my normal self. It's just like the vaccine. If you take it, you will not end up on the ventilator. You will not end up being as sick as someone who has not. And then, of course, there are no vaccines that can absolutely stop someone from getting the disease. It won't be as deadly. So you will be protected.
You said you are doing sessions with this person that give you information. I'll think about it more. And I think after another 2 or 3 sessions that you have, maybe you'll have more information and I'm sure I'll have more questions. So give me a little time, let me think about it.
And of course, I'll give you a little time to think about it. And if you have any other questions before I get back to you, don't be afraid. Just give me a call and I'm here. I'll answer your questions. And if there are any concerns and I can't address them at the moment, then I will forward it to the person who I'm having sessions with and we can talk about it. Because I want you to be comfortable. And I want you to say yes.
Okay, thank you. Because all these facts you're presenting to me, I was not aware. I'll think about it and maybe another week or so we can talk again, okay?
Of course, and I'm open anytime.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Marcia.
And thank you for
Keep
having
in
me.
touch. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Well done. You can have a backup career as actresses. That was phenomenal.
We're in two different rooms.
I can only imagine the conversations that you had with the dozens of caregivers you each spoke to. Let's go ahead and address some questions that are coming in from the audience. And once we get through the questions, I want you to reflect, both of you, on what you think if you would recommend other agencies to take a similar approach, and if so, what parts of it would you recommend they try, and what parts of it could they skip? But you don't need to answer that right now, just let that percolate. And we can ask Bev's question. So Bev asked, how are you communicating information with caregivers? And honestly, we're such a small group. Bev, if you want to unmute and just ask the question yourself, you can.
Hi there. I believe
Hello.
I believe she's already answered that question prior to the role play. So I think I've gotten the answer on that. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, are there other questions for Marcia and Vinette? Remember, they talked to dozens, I think I know together they talked to at least 111, and that was as of April. And so since then, they've probably talked to dozens more. Each one digging into conversations about the vaccine with people who were not quite as friendly as the fictional Marcia, some who were antagonistic, some who were open. This is your chance to get ideas and hear about the communication techniques that worked best.
First, you have to listen. You have to listen and respect whatever the caregiver says. But we have had some that were like, nope. You just went to them and they just blasted you.
Even now.
Even now.
You know.
And we said, it's okay. We were nice with it. We didn't really fight back, because we knew that we wanted to get them to a safe space. So, but there were times when we met caregivers and they said no, and no matter what we did and say, and then like 2 months after, they would call you. I need an appointment because I need to get vaccinated, just like that. And I'm like, and that was when all the opportunities for them to get the vaccinations, when we had the different links and we had it. But
remember when we had the 100 and we wanted people?
We wanted, yes, we had 100 spaces.
And after that was filled, people just coming.
Yeah, and we like, okay, you need to get vaccinated. And those were the same people who
no.
Maybe they snapped at us, they cursed us, and they said, I need to get vaccinated. And we were not, it was like in March, April, when we did not even, at that time, more people were getting it. So it was harder for you to get an appointment. And we had to go out of our ways, and we had to identify
places,
sites that did it, places, and get them on. Because for them, they were ready, but they did not want to do it. We had to do it. And it was not that they were asking us, they were telling us, I need to get vaccinated, so you people have to find me somewhere. And until this day, if they come, they say to me, one said it last week, and I just said to them, you can go into any Walgreens, any of the pharmacies and get it done. That's a walk-in, and they say, which one? And I had to say, okay, where do you live? And I had to point them, and I had to call and get the information, and then they could go. About 3 of them.
Okay.
Just this week. So it's that we have had conversations and they're now at a more comfortable place, but they still want us to be their support.
Mhm. That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna open up the floor again for questions. If anybody has a question for Vinette or Marcia, you can just unmute, and if you want, you can come off video. You don't have to, but this is the moment before we transition to the next topic. Has anyone tried any kind of similar approach, whether or not you called it vaccine champions, doesn't matter. Have any of you tried to do this kind of outreach with the caregivers at your agencies?
Nobody.
Okay, well, I guess you guys are leaders of a novel intervention. Thank you so much for taking the time to walk us through how you approached outreach to caregivers. Given the nature of the outreach that you did and the success that you had without just through interpersonal communication and trust, what are your thoughts on mandatory vaccination? Is it your impression that it would help that last 30% that aren't vaccinated to cross over to vaccinated? Do you think they would leave? Like, what are your thoughts on mandatory vaccination and its impact on agencies in general?
I would like 100% of us to be vaccinated. But to be honest, I don't agree with mandatory vaccines. I think people should be able to make a choice. And, even though, if we all get to that point where we are all vaccinated, that would be a great world to live in. But I don't think we should be forcing someone. But eventually, it will become mandatory. Because there's so many places that are asking, going to school, if you're traveling, and all of that, going to events, eventually it may lead to that. But for agencies to say, we cannot hire you because you're not vaccinated, I don't really agree. I think, if we have more conversations with them and let them know that we're supportive of, their views, but at the same time, we would like for them to get vaccinated. I think, we would get more compliance from them. Mm-hmm. But to go the hard way and force, we'll get a lot of, I don't believe in that.
How about you, Marcia?
I don't believe in it either, but I see it as what you would call the unwritten rule. Mm-hmm. It will be of such that in the future, maybe we cannot do anything without it. We cannot travel. We cannot have access to certain privileges unless you are vaccinated. So although it is not typically, say, mandated, as I say, I see it as coming as the unwritten rule.
Okay, you think it's going to become so normal that everybody just ends up doing it because it's so widespread, and they don't want to face the limitations.
Right.
Yeah, eventually. Yes.
Yeah, eventually.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, well, there are lots of opinions out there. When we were working together at Houseworks, we did a survey. Vinette and Marcia actually did a survey where we asked caregivers if they would be willing to be vaccinated if their clients or clients' building required vaccination. And I expected the numbers to be low, but there were 51% of the 111 caregivers that were interviewed said that they would. get vaccinated if it was necessary, essentially, to do their job. And I found that, I mean, there's 49% that said no, but I found that 59% to be surprising. And so I suspect that there will be a subset of caregivers that will choose vaccination in response to a mandate. And then I think some will just choose not to work.
Yeah, we have had that. We have one particular one who we had to take her off the schedule. When we were doing the PCR, she would never get tested.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely
Even
not. But now, she will never get tested and she will never get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying, okay, we're not telling you to get vaccinated, but you have to get tested. Because we were testing our caregivers every week. We had employed a lab and nurses to do it, and she would not.
Mm-hmm.
So we had no choice than to, she said, I'd rather not work.
Okay, good. She has
So
that
it's
right.
her choice, so we had to respect that. Not that we agree, but we just had to take her off the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask you guys to stay until the end, but we're gonna transition back to the mandatory vaccination topic formally. But before we do that, I'm gonna do a little Zoom style celebration. I'm gonna give you a clapping hands. I'm gonna give you a heart because I do adore you both, a thumbs up, and anybody else who wants to join me in celebrating and thanking Vinette and Marcia for their presentation. Just choose the emoji of your choice.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, ladies.